Ladies and gentlemen, sports fans alike, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. One of the couple, two, three best podcasts around. So sit back, grab yourself a cold one and a Polish sausage, park your keister in the French room, and listen to Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago.
In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose. As long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. This is your hosts, Alex and Sean. On this episode, we have a lot of thoughts about the Chicago Bears, and we will express them in a calm, rational manner. There will be no meatball sauce at all. But first, I'd like to quickly thank our sponsor, the Rockford Ice Hogs. If you're not familiar with the Rockford Ice Hogs, they're the AHL minor league affiliate of the Chicago Blackhawks. What does that mean for you? You could see the stars of tomorrow today at family-friendly, affordable prices. The season is going on right now, so head on over to icehogs.com, get yourself a hat, shirt, jersey, tickets, and more. Tell them Swerski Sports sent you. Alex, if you don't mind, I would like to just kick this off real quick.
Why don't you go kick it off, and I'm going to prevent this meatball sauce from boiling over that's on the stove here.
So I had a lot of thoughts that I wanted to get out about the game and things I saw in the game. But because we recorded this the day after the game, because it was late on Sunday night, a few things came to light that really, really are pissing me off. And I'm not sure, I'm sure you are aware of it, but the Dan Bernstein rant about things.
Mm-hmm.
So the rumor / I don't know is going on is that the Bears organization are trying to throw Justin Fields under the bus and make it seem that it's his fault, that they're bad, and them to move on and keep their jobs. That was Justin Fields' fault. This is the most Bears thing the Bears could be doing. This organization is such a complete dumpster fire. And it all starts with George McCaskey. He's been around football his whole entire life, and he literally knows nothing. And I can't think of anything that's more incompetent than being around something your whole life and knowing nothing about it. Mm-hmm. It's embarrassing. It's stupidity at embarrassing levels. And he is petrified of hiring people because every time he does, it makes him look worse. So he'll let the organization go down the toilet rather than try again to get it right. And the thing is even when he says, I'm not going to get in the way of it, it's like a Three Stooges skit. He gets right in the way of it. Like he is like Urkel or some other bumbling character on an 80s sitcom, 90s sitcom. Like he just can't get out of his own way. So you have Ryan Poles, that's general manager, and I get he inherited Justin Fields. He did not draft him. But you know what? I know the old saying is, well, they want to clean house and bring in all of their own guys. If you've got guys there and you didn't draft them, that's okay. You can keep them if they're good. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, if you're Ryan Poles, you brought this coaching staff in that's so stupid and so bad at what they do.
It's insulting watching it, truly.
And if you're Ryan Poles, you talked about the importance of building teams from the lines out. And you have the worst combination of offensive and defensive lines in the NFL, arguably. Your offensive line, best case scenario is if everybody's healthy and playing to the top of their game, your offensive line is okay. But you have put your eggs in the basket of people that are routinely injured, and you have a bad coaching staff. That combination is disastrous. Your defensive line is a bunch of scotch tape holding together. It's MacGyvering together, has-beens and never will be's. And you have just a terrible set of lines. And then you couple that with a defensive coordinator who got fired there's something we'll never know. It's some sort of weird situation. You hired a defensive coach to help fix your young quarterback. I have defended so many of these things because you're isolated. You're like, okay, that's not so bad. But you start adding every single one of them up. Was going out and getting a wide receiver last year because you knew the market a bad idea? No. But but getting Chase Claypool, who a team that is known for getting best out of wide receiver play, gave up on him. That's who you took. And he was a disaster. And he's gone to the Dolphins, and Dolphins fans had enough of him. And he's played like 2 games. And you turned that's what essentially was the last pick of the first round, because the Dolphins lost their first round draft pick. You turned that into a quarterback or a wide receiver that you didn't even get a full season out of, and you traded him for a conditional 7th round pick.
Mm-hmm.
The idea behind it, fine. Your execution of it was stupidity level. It was threat level midnight. So hiring a defensive coach, all right, I can see that working. Mike Vrabel can make that work. But you hired a bonehead. And every decision, you've spent so many draft picks and so much capital on defensive players to have one of the worst defenses in the league. You brought in a defensive coordinator who runs an antiquated system that, sure, you can run cover 2 as in situations, because it's still a scheme that will work. But when that's your predominant scheme and you can't get pressure on the quarterback because of your garbage players and you're not doing anything to help them, that's a disaster. You've got an offensive coordinator who doesn't know how to call sequences of plays, doesn't know how to put people in the right position, can't protect the quarterback, doesn't know how to get wide receivers open, and
doesn't let your quarterback play to his strengths,
and is a coward, is a straight up coward. And your defensive head coach has thrown how many players? I shiv shit on Matt Nagy for how many years, but Matt Nagy didn't throw his players under the bus like this.
No.
Is when have you heard Matt Eberflus take responsibility for things that went wrong? It's the players need to play better. My quarterback needs to be better. It's always somebody else. Does Matt Eberflus have a mirror in his house? Does he not have the ability to self-reflect?
Can't lie either. And yet he does.
This is a disaster. And I hope by the time you listen to this, maybe Justin Fields is traded. I hope for his sake that they trade him, that he goes to a team that doesn't hire incompetent boobs and balls out, because this team is a disaster. And I don't know what Kevin Warren has done to elicit any sort of confidence in anybody, but when I look at everybody and everybody else is eating crayons and eating their boogers, and he's the most adult one around, I pray that he takes the reins on this.
Did you see that shot of him last night at the game on TV?
Which one?
The shot of Kevin Warren?
Yeah.
In the box?
Yeah.
Picture says 1,000 words. And you know what, Sean? I don't have the confidence that he has the power to step in and make changes, because I think that dingbat that owns the team will not let him do that because it's not the Chicago Bear way. I would love for Kevin Warren to come in and make a statement. Listen, if you want your tight ends coaching the rest of the season, I don't give a fuck anymore. This season is down the drain. It would mean a lot if you just stood up and said, you know what? This culture is terrible. Keeping this culture around is going to do more harm than good. We're done with this. We are done. But I don't have the confidence that he has the power to do that.
I don't either. George is like, I'm just a fan. No, you're not, you idiot. If you think you're just a fan, you're even dumber than we think you are. And I don't even say that lightly. You are dumber than we think you are, and we think you're real dumb. You are not just a fan. You and your family own this team. You own 80% of this team. You have the autonomy to say, all right, I don't know what I'm doing. I hired people to do this, and I'm going to give them the freedom to do what they need to do and step the fuck back. So he does have things. He's not just a fan. He has the power to do something. And I would love if tomorrow morning they were like, Ryan Poles, Matt Eberflus, and Luke Getsy have all been relieved of their duties. I would be happy.
At least the coaching staff. Least the coaching staff.
I'm scared of allowing Ryan Poles, because right now, if they're leaking information about letting Justin Fields go, either there's two things, and neither one of them is good. One is Ryan Poles is directly involved, in which case that's a weak move. That's a bad move. It makes the organization look bad. That their subterfuge is rampant. That's bad. He should be let go. The other one is that your offensive coordinator and your head coach are doing this behind your back and you don't know about it. In which case, that looks bad on you. You're letting the inmates run the asylum. Either one, I've lost confidence. And we are at a really critical point right now, because we're probably going to have two very, very high draft picks. We're probably going to have around $130 million to spend. And we need to figure out if this quarterback is the one we get behind or not. And I don't trust anybody to do this and handle it, because if you blow this opportunity that you have right now, you are setting this organization back 3 to 5 years.
I hear you. I really do. And you know what? Here is a game that they play on 670 The Score with the White Sox. And we're going to play this game as well. We talk about George McCaskey's involvement. Now, you look at it and say, listen, what kind of power does a guy like Kevin Warren have in this situation? What kind of influence does Ryan Poles have? And with Kevin Warren, when I say he doesn't have the power, this isn't always about George McCaskey being active. It's George McCaskey putting on clamps. Like, he's like, well, listen, you might be able to hire a new coach and GM when the time comes, but you're going to do it the Chicago Bear way.
The stupid, incompetent way.
Right. So it's like even if George McCaskey is not directly making decisions, you're clamped down under what you have to do. Well, okay, if you think they should be gone, fine, but you can't fire them until the end of the year. That right there is an indirect control that George McCaskey has. And this is, again, we're all asking this. So we're going to play the game that 670 The Score does with the White Sox. Who's in charge? Who's in charge? You know what? When we watched the Chicago Cubs build from the ground up a decade ago, We knew Theo Epstein, the buck stopped there. When it came to all baseball decisions, Theo Epstein did everything from roster construction to rebuilding the infrastructure of the entire organization. I mean, when they rebuilt the locker rooms and the facilities, Theo Epstein was part of all of that. And
the ownership said, here's a budget. That was their only involvement. Here's a budget. And he ran.
Do what you need to do. Right. They truly gave him the keys to the car. Truly. And you know what? I'm confident right now. Maybe I'm not 100% on it, but I am confident that the Chicago Blackhawks are letting their guy run the show. That they are letting Kyle Davidson run the show when it comes to hockey decisions. Because I'll tell you what, when you are a hockey organization, yes, they're the Chicago Blackhawks. Yes, they're an Original Six franchise. Yes, they, were rejuvenated with the cup runs in the early to mid 2010s. But it could be very easy for a owner, especially of a hockey team, to step in like, no, you're not going to tear it down and rebuild. We can't afford all these rebuilding seasons. We're not going to continue to get the same revenue that a rebuilding Cubs or Bears team would get. But no, they let Kyle Davidson go in there and say, hey, we're going to tear this all down. So I have confidence that Kyle Davidson's truly in charge. With the Chicago Bears, I'm asking, who's got power to do what? How involved is Ryan Poles involved in these rumors, whether or not they're true or not? If they are true, how involved is he? Is he innocent? Is he not? Is he ignorant? Is he not? We don't know. We don't know the extent of all of this. And we don't even know what the hell happened with Alan Williams. But I can tell you what, based on what we know, it clearly just wasn't a difference in defensive scheme here. There is clearly something not right with that entire infrastructure from a culture standpoint to a function standpoint. And we sometimes forget that, aka 2 times when we actually do win a game. Last week things were fine. Hey, we won a game. The Packers lost. The Lions lost. Look at this. Look how nice this is. You beat the shit out of Brian Hoyer, another team that's a mess in the Raiders. And then here you are, exposed once again on national TV, where all the narratives come out, where you were under the spotlight, and every single weakness your organization has, from the very top to the team itself, is all on display for the nation to watch. Everyone can see how dysfunctional this coaching is. Everyone can see how bad this team is put together. Everyone can see that you don't have the personnel to win football games. And here you are, in this regime, you've lost 20 of 25 games. Did you see my tweet and David Kaplan's tweet about the 5 wins the Bears do have, by any chance?
I didn't, but I'm gonna guess that it's around the quality and caliber of quarterback that they won against.
It's, Kaplan did it against the quarterback. I'm doing it against the whole team. Okay. So let's go through it real quick. All right.
Sure.
You won your first game against a 49ers team. Should have been really like an impressive, right? Impressive feat. But guess what?
We thought it was more impressive than it was, but
Yes.
The quarterback that they had, we thought that was their future franchise quarterback. We realize now that it was a quarterback that was so bad that they shipped him out of town
For peanuts.
Yeah, on his rookie deal.
Right. And it was in a freaking monsoon. I mean, it was in a freaking monsoon. Okay. The next one you got was against the team you were tanking with, Davis Mills and the Texans. And you barely won. You needed a Roquan Smith pick and a walk-off field goal by Cairo Santos to beat that team. Barely won against the Texans. What was third? You beat the Patriots on the road. It was a very good-looking win. But here's the thing.
Mac Jones is terrible.
Exactly. That truly marked, I think, the true beginning of the Patriots' downfall, the Bill Belichick downfall. I think it was that game. Have you seen? I mean, you've watched what the Patriots have done since, right?
Oh, yeah, they look awful. And honestly, I don't think Bill Belichick is a terrible coach, like he's forgot to coach. I think Bill Belichick is a absolutely abysmal general manager.
Yes. Yes.
And
I agree.
I have a feeling he's not going to get fired, but I have a feeling that he's going to get demoted and they're going to put in a general manager.
Yeah, could be. So that was your third win. Your fourth win, I would say, is probably the most impressive. I'm not saying the Commanders are great, but you saw the Commanders throughout the season do some things with their defense and their defensive line, and you actually held up pretty well against them. You played a pretty good game against that team.
But they were the most, their quarterback is the most sacked quarterback in the league. And
yes,
that's who you got sacks against. that's the thing with the Bears is they're able to do the thing that everybody's able to do against the team. Oh, you're the most sacked team? All right, we can actually get a couple sacks off of you. Oh, you're the worst, against the run. All right, we can run a little bit on you. They can't do anything against you when you're not terrible at that thing.
right. I'm not saying it was a great win, but at least it was a fairly impressive one. And then
it's definitely the only win or the most the
valuable win.
The best win you could hang your hat on in the Eberflus era.
Right, because you could say, hey, our quarterback did really well. The wide receiver we got in that big trade went off. And then your defense actually got to the quarterback and had some takeaways. So all around good game by them. And then win number 5, you beat up on a Brian Hoyer-led Raiders team. Brian Hoyer is a rotting corpse shell of his former self. I don't think he's won a game in like 7-8 years. So there you go.
It's really pathetic. It's really, really pathetic.
And Sean, how many times this year have we watched a drive or two in a game and you knew it was already over? You knew once the tone was set, you knew there was no going back. And I'm going to be honest with you. I went to bed after the first half.
You didn't miss anything.
I know I didn't miss anything.
Honestly, I was really, really tempted to turn this off after the the Chargers scored a touchdown. It was 7-0. I literally said on my TV, well, that's it. This is a deficit they can't overcome.
And the most frustrating part was the very first play of the game was the only time we thought, hey, maybe this will set the tone in a good way. Despite the fact that Darnell Mooney got completely robbed and Tyson Bagent got robbed of a passing touchdown on his first play.
Yeah. I do want to say and caveat this with this did not change the outcome of the game.
No.
But
no.
The officiating was atrocious.
Yes, it was.
Mostly against the Bears.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Komet got a touchdown taken away. Mooney got a likely touchdown taken away. They took those away with bad calls. There was a pass interference that was awful.
And Stevenson, yeah.
Yeah, that was awful. Like there was okay, the back-to-back penalties on Lucas Patrick. Sure, the first one when you want to call it illegal hands to the face. Okay, but the very next play when they called holding on Lucas Patrick, if you watched, his face is being pushed back by his face mask with the defender's hand there. How is that not an illegal hands to the face? Like why is that missed? You clearly were watching because you called the hold on that same play. So it's the officiating in this league is atrocious. And I keep saying it with how in bed you are with gambling, legal gambling, you have to take the reins of your officiating It
Yep.
has to be consistent.
Yep.
Because this is where the NFL's downfall will come. I'm watching it. This league is huge. It's by far and away the biggest sport in the United States. And this is the Achilles heel. We're watching it. It is the poor and inconsistent officiating. Am I saying that there's uh you know nefarious actions going on? No, but if it keeps going this way, a lot of people will be concerned that is this a throwing the game situation? Is this a monetary situation going on? Because that's how bad the officiating is. And
We have a right to question it.
the running joke is that the league is scripted, and the way you officiate leads credence to that. I don't believe that any way form, but you're not doing yourself any favors with this poor officiating.
No, you're not.
Is you make so much money. Why are your officials not full-time officials? Why do they have other jobs?
Mm-hmm.
That should be your full-time job. Pay them better. Pay them a wage where, you know what, they make really good money. That's what they do. During the off season, they should be together in training sessions, watching film, working on their craft, saying, oh, okay, we watched every play that got criticized. And you stand up there and you defend the call you made to your other officials in the league. Work on it. Work on your craft. I don't know why this is so hard.
Yep. It was, I mean, it was bad. Really, really bad. But Sean, like you said, the Bears played like shit either way, but you could have had maybe a bit more of a competitive game. Again, it wouldn't have really changed the outcome in the end, but when you see stuff like that, it drives you crazy because you know what? That could have been a great first play of the game where Darnell Mooney gets a touchdown, and in the scorebook, Tyson Bagent has like a massive play on the first play of the game, and he was never touched. But guess what happened after that? Despite that, you were still in good field position. And there's Luke Getsy running sweeps.
You ran 2 shitty run plays immediately. You were aggressive. You had a big play against one of the bottom 3 teams against the pass. You beat them over the top with your number 2 receiver. And what do you follow that up with? 2 shitty run plays. And then Cody Whitehair gets absolutely demolished by Bosa. And you set your quarterback up with a 3rd and long. And at that moment, I believe I tweeted something along the lines of Luke Getsy or Cody Whitehair should have to walk home after this game, and Luke Getsy should get launched into the sun, because this was unnecessary. Is you're playing a team that's decent against the run, abysmal against the pass. You just beat them on a big pass. Go at them. Go at them with aggression. You are a terrible team. Go at them with aggression. Don't set your young quarterback up for a 3rd and long. And I feel bad for Tyson Bagent. You've got unreasonable expectations from fans on him. You know, him just existing is causing some sort of controversy.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got a terrible offensive coordinator and head coach who don't give a shit about their players. They don't. They're all only in there for themselves. You'll never convince me otherwise. Losers. And your offensive coordinator is putting you on a spotlight national game, is putting you in a position to fail. That's where you are. You're an undrafted rookie out of Shepherd University. You played nobody teams. You played in your hometown, your small hometown in West Virginia, in a tiny little college. You didn't face any real competition. You have been a great story, yet your team is setting you up to fail. because that's what the Bears do. You knew it from the first drive. Is that one play that was not for the team to win. That was not to give confidence to Tyson Bagent. That first play was Eberflus and Getsy saying, "Oh, well, we didn't make a mistake taking out Bagent in the last game. Is we believe in his arm. That all the criticism we've received over this week, that can go away now. No more criticism of us." And that's all it was, because immediately after that, did you do that again? Not until it was too late. You immediately went to your shitty conservative play calls, and not even good run plays. You ran shitty run plays that didn't go anywhere, and you set yourself up where Cody Whitehair had a one-on-one block against Bosa, and that went about as poorly as you would expect.
Mm-hmm.
And he had no chance. No chance.
Hey, you know what else would be nice? If your receiver downfield in the end zone could catch the ball.
That was really frustrating. I get he slipped, but literally the ball is the announcers were like, well, it was still a pretty catchable ball. Oh, yeah, it was a pretty catchable ball because it hit him in the stomach after he fell down. Yeah. Like, don't tell me anything other than that was a catchable ball, because even though he fell down, that ball hit him went through his hands into his stomach and bounced off. I've been a defender of Velus Jones, and he should walk home too.
Yeah. Trying to.
You had in that first quarter, there was the play where Bagent did a great job getting the ball out to Cole Kmet, and rather than Cole Kmet try to pick up those extra 2.5 yards,
went right out of bounds.
Went right out of bounds. Didn't even try. He just went right out of bounds, like he had no idea what down and distance it was or where he needed to go. There are so many things that, you could be like, well, every player is dumb and doesn't know the situation and is not capable of not making pre-snap penalties. Then you go, you know what? That seems like a systemic failure from the coaching staff.
Mm-hmm.
The coaches don't have these players ready to play. They don't have them disciplined. They don't know the down and distance. It's infuriating. And yeah, you could be like, well, these players make a lot of money. They should be playing. You know what? Then there's a Luke Getsy makes a lot of money. Matt Eberflus makes a lot of money too. Their job is to coach. Their players are not doing what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to be coaching them. That's the reason you have a coach. Don't just say, well, these players make a lot of money. They got to play. Then if that was the case, there would be no need to pay Matt Eberflus $4 million a year or whatever he makes. There's no need to pay him that if the players are just make a lot of money and they can play. McCaskey would rather keep that $4 million a year than pay somebody. But no, you need a coach. There's a point of having a coach. And also, if you came in to this franchise with a young quarterback that was not being coached properly by a shitty offensive coach, and then you're like, you know what? We're going to bring in a defensive coach. That's what we're going to do. We're going to bring in a defensive coach. What is one thing you expect your team to be able to do?
Defend, tackle.
I expect at the bare minimum, your team should tackle well. And this team is so bad at making tackles.
The last night was one of the poorest tackling efforts I've ever seen.
It was abysmal. It wasn't just one guy. It was everybody.
TJ Edwards with that huge missed tackle that ended up being a touchdown. It was nonstop. Absolute nonstop. The tackling was bad. The scheme was terrible. You were getting picked apart all night. And it drives me crazy when that soft ass coverage gives them that massive cushion right in the middle of the field. What was it on one of the touchdowns when they were literally, it wasn't first and goal, it was first down, but the first down marker was within 15 yards of the goal line, and it's third down. They gave him such a cushion. They were all playing on the other side of the sticks. All they had to do was dunk the ball 2 yards. They had all that room to get the first down because they were playing way back in soft coverage.
Yeah,
what are you doing? You're giving them a first down.
And we, going into this game, the national narrative is Brandon Staley is not an NFL caliber head coach and should be fired.
He coached the ever-living crap out of Matt Eberflus.
Yes, he came in there and was like, you know what? We're going to throw screen passes. We're just going to throw screen passes. And that just goes back to is this coaching staff is so bad at coaching. They can't figure out when somebody does something with success more than once, they have no ability to go, let's make this change to stop that. And I'm going to go back to the Giants game. Is the Bears so overmatched the Giants, and excuse me one sec, I'm still coughing here. They so overmatched the Giants. The Giants found, oh hey, let's just run the naked boot and then have our quarterback run every time. And they kept doing it over and over and over and over and over the entire game, and the Bears never figured out a way to stop it because they have this coaching staff has no ability to make changes on the fly.
Nope.
And that's what had happened. They went in there, right? We're just going to run screens on the Bears. And the Bears had no answer. None. Is the fact that you haven't fired this coaching staff. Players are not happy. My take on it is Bears don't do this, or I was one of the people that said, who will coach? And you know what? At this point, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Bring in somebody. Look what the Colts did last year. They brought in Jeff Saturday, who didn't know his ass from a hole in the ground and was a laughing stock. And you know what they did? They're like, it doesn't matter. We're going to get a good draft pick. And we're going to go in and get a real coach next year because, there's no issues. And they get Shane Steichen, who's done an amazing job. They made that rookie quarterback look good. They're making Gardner Minshew look real good. They've got that team humming with a bad team. They're not a good team. I would say, arguably, have a worse roster than the Bears, but they're winning. I mean, they're being competitive in games. Even if they're not winning, they're being competitive. You don't look at that team and go, what a joke. They're with their backup quarterback and they're still competing. The Bears are a joke. I would be fine if you said to Lovey, we're going to give you like $2 million. Come in here and finish the season off. Just keep the train on the tracks. We don't need you to win. We just need you to hold this team together and pay you some money. And then, we're going to go and get an offensive coach. We just need you to come in here. Here's some money. And you fire this coaching staff and you go bring in a real coaching staff next year. I would be fine with that. I would not criticize it one bit. Not one bit.
Yeah, I just on a full interim basis, I want anything but this. Truly.
I don't care if if you just went, hey, Olin Kreutz or Lance Briggs with no coaching experience, come on in here and coach. I don't care. I literally don't care. Because at that point, it's all it is about keeping this team from mutiny, because this team is a train wreck. It's one thing if you lose and you're competing. It's this team is just dog shit tacos.
Yep. Too bad nothing will change in season.
Nothing will change.
And too bad they'll just end up hiring Leslie Frazier or some shit as their next head coach. No offense, Leslie Frazier. I know you're a Bears legend, but you know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the Colts. The Colts were terrible. They were an abysmal team last year, a laughing stock, and they lose week 1 and to the Jaguars, and they started a rookie quarterback. Took them a little bit to get going. They come back the next week and win. Then they beat the Ravens in Baltimore. They had an overtime loss to the Rams. They lose a close one to the Titans before they had all the injuries. You lose another tough one to the Jags. You have an absolutely just really tough loss to the Browns. You had a tough one against the Saints.
You at least look competent.
You looked competent, and your team is putting up 27, 38, 20, 23, 23, 22, 31, 21. Your team is putting up more than teens in the points, and you've put up 30 points a couple of times. And then you're going into, you got the Panthers and the Patriots coming up. Those are winnable games for you. Like, you can put together some wins with your backup quarterback and a bad roster. Like, that's a team that's like, okay, we felt good about our young quarterback. We feel good about our coaching staff. Let's do this. The Bears don't have that. We don't feel good about our coaching staff. We don't know what to expect of our quarterback because he has just been put in shit situations. And maybe Justin Fields is not the guy. I just would love to see him have a wide receiver and a real coaching staff for a whole season and just figure it out.
He's dealt with this and Matt Nagy.
Yeah. And here's the thing. This is part of the reason I would love to just clean house is have a new GM that goes, you know what? I recognize the position we're in, and I think with a real coaching staff in place and an offensive line, we can make this work. We can kick the can down the road. Is you take both of those 2 high draft picks and you trade them you trade back, you get multiple first round picks next year. So you trade back both of those picks. You wind up with 3 number 1s next year. And you go, you know what? We'll give Justin Fields, with this new coaching staff and a rebuilt offensive line, we're going to give him a year here. And then you arm yourself with multiple first rounders next year. Go, you know what? If he stinks, we've got the ammunition to move up and get a quarterback in that way.
That makes too much sense.
And the fact that how many games Justin Fields is about to miss game number 3, correct?
Yeah, I mean, Matt Eberflus today said that he's out for the Saints. After not coming out and saying it, the press had to get it out of him. Oh, yeah, we like where he's going. He's still week to week. So is he out for Sunday? Yes. That's how it all went down.
And then I believe you play Thursday night the following week, correct?
I'd have to look. Honestly, I haven't looked that far ahead, but you play the Saints this week.
Let's see. Bears schedule. Yes, the next week is Thursday against the Panthers. And
That's a night game?
Thursday night.
Ugh.
Yes. So I doubt if Justin Fields is not playing against the Saints, you doubt he's coming back for the Thursday game, right?
I would say it's unlikely.
So at that case, why didn't you put him on IR?
That's what I asked today.
Why don't you put him on IR and give yourself another roster spot? God, this coaching staff is, or this front office staff doesn't make any sense. And here we go. So we got Saints. Saints are a pretty good team. You get the Panthers. You feel like you should win that game. But then Lions, 2 out of your next 3 weeks.
Ugh.
And the Vikings, the rumors are the Vikings might be trading for
Jameis Winston.
Jameis Winston.
Yeah, Kirk Cousins done for the year. That's a big blow.
I mean, honestly, he's probably done for the rest of his, never going to play for the Vikings again, I would imagine.
Even if they draft a, yeah, I guess. You don't think they try to bring him back?
Well, I mean, he probably will miss into part of next year.
Hey, I'm not saying you're wrong. I
mean, the rumors were that they were going to get rid of him after this season anyway.
Yes.
So I think that probably going, oh, he's done. Yeah, this is the last year of his guaranteed contract.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes down, but it'll be interesting to see what the Vikings do because I mean, record-wise, they have a shot right now at the playoffs. It wasn't that way a few weeks ago, but
actually, I'm looking at this. His contract is done, but he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 void years on that to spread that cap hit out.
That many, wow.
Oof. So they'll be paying him. So next season he has a cap hit of, he won't even be on the team, and he'll have a cap hit of 28.5 million. Then the year after, 10.25 million, and then 4 million. Oh, sorry, 4 more years. So he's 4 more years, and then he's an unrestricted free agent per that contract after 2028, according to Spot Track. Oof. $28.5 million against the cap next year.
Yeah, it's a lot.
But you know what? He's done. He's 35 years old. Like, I don't see any sense. I think the Vikings are going to try to make a move to bring in a young quarterback.
It could very well be.
And I mean, the thing is if you're them, you could either trade to try to compete this year, or you just go, you know what, we stink, and we try to draft a quarterback in this draft.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it. It's, because they were really trying, I think they were really trying to go for it this year. And the fact that they got themselves back into it and you lose that's a tough blow. But I mean, you're probably not going to win the division, but still had a shot at the playoffs.
Let's see where we stand. Playoff picture. So if the playoffs were to start today, the NFC, Eagles would be the 1 seed. The Seahawks would be the 2 seed. The Lions would be the 3 seed. Falcons the 4 seed. The Cowboys the 5th seed. The 49ers the 6th seed. And the Vikings the 7th seed.
There you go.
Then they win the tiebreaker with the Saints. So I mean,
That game against the Saints is in New Orleans, right? Or is it at home?
Let's find out.
I mean, either way, I don't think the Bears are going to win that game, but
The Bears are in New Orleans.
that's what I thought. Yeah. When was the last time they won there? I feel like I've
was on the team.
because like the last few games I could remember in the Superdome. I remember the game they lost in 2017 when Zach Miller almost died. Do you remember that?
That was I almost threw up in my mouth.
Yeah. Thank God he survived because I love Zach Miller, and you never want to see that to any player on the field, on such a freak accident. And then I remember them losing bad in 2011. They just had a really, really awful game. Those are really the only ones. Oh, and then of course there was the playoff game in 2020. That was on Nickelodeon. You lost that one too. I'm gonna look this up now.
Yeah, the last time the Bears. Jesus Christ.
It was like I legit don't ever remember sitting down and watching the Bears beat New Orleans in New Orleans. Let's see.
So last time they won was in Chicago. The last time the Bears won in New Orleans was November 6th, 2005.
Yeah, yep. Here we go. A year before they beat them in the NFC Championship. Yeah, 2005.
Kyle Orton threw for 137 yards. Cedric Benson ran for 79. Adrian Peterson, not bad Adrian Peterson, ran for 58 and a touchdown. Muhsin Muhammad, only 2 players had more than 10 yards receiving in that game. It was Justin Gage and Muhsin Muhammad. Robbie Gould missed a field goal. It was, let's see, Nathan Vasher and Hunter Hillenmeyer had interceptions. And it was Aaron Brooks at quarterback.
Yeah. I mean, we have a 7-game losing streak against the Saints, period. We haven't beaten the Saints since 2008.
Yep.
That was on that was a Robbie Gould game winner, I think. I can't remember. It wasn't overtime. Yeah, it was an overtime game winner by Robbie Gould. That was that December when he had the overtime game-winning field goals against the Saints and the Packers. And then they choked in week 17, almost made the playoffs. But yeah, and then, the last time the Bears beat them in the Superdome, like you said, that game in 2005. And then before that, the Bears had not beaten the Saints at the Superdome. The last time before 05 was back in 1991.
Yeah, Kyle Orton won the last time against the Saints too. Trying to figure out how the hell they won it. Kyle Orton threw for 172 yards, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions, a 49.2 quarterback rating. Matt Forte was the leading rusher, and he had 34 yards. And your leading receiver didn't even have 50 yards. Oh, here we go. Danielle Manning had a kickoff return for a touchdown. He had a lot of kickoff yards that game. Robbie Gould kicked 3 field goals. Ottawalia Gunlia had an interception. Mike Brown had an interception.
I found the wait a minute. This wasn't even in the Superdome.
The last win?
The last win in New Orleans. That
Where
wasn't
was
at the
it?
Superdome. Don't you remember that was Hurricane Katrina, so they played elsewhere?
Oh, you're right.
Wow, I didn't even think
They
about that.
played at Tiger Stadium in Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
Whew.
So that means the last time they won a game in the Superdome.
October 27, 1991.
Wow.
Do you know who the Bears quarterback that game was?
1991. Would that have been Jim Harbaugh?
That would have been Jim Harbaugh. In that win, do you know how many yards Jim Harbaugh passed for? And I tell you this, he was the only quarterback that game for the Bears. Do you know how many yards he passed for?
Like 100?
61. He was
I got
5 for 22 for 61 yards and a quarterback rating of 16.9.
All right, I gotta pull up
Wait,
this box score.
The leading rusher was Brad Muster, their fullback, 57 yards. Their leading receiver was Wendell Davis. Wendell Davis was their leading receiver at, oh man, where'd he go? 27 yards.
I don't even know who that is.
Only 3 players had a reception in that game. Neil Anderson had 2 for 17. Tom Waddle had 2 for 17 and a touchdown. And Wendell Davis was 1 for 27. 1 catch for 27 yards. Oh my God. Brad Muster had a touchdown.
God. I'm looking at this now. How so 20-17. Okay, so Saints scored first. Bears kicked a couple of field goals. The legendary Morton Anderson. Oh, did he kick a 60-yard field goal? I guess.
Oh my God. A name that I totally forgot. The quarterback of the Saints that games was Bobby Hebert.
I don't remember him.
Oh my God. Bobby Hebert.
I mean, was he who?
He was
good?
He played no, he was fine. He was like a backup type guy. He played for the Saints and the Falcons. Bobby Hebert.
Now, pardon my ignorance here too. Was this a Jim Mora Saints team?
Maybe. I think that probably would have been that era.
Jim Mora. Because, I mean, there was the one year he said diddly poo, and it was...
All right. All right. Sitcom / football trivia. Based on a sitcom, who was Jim Harbaugh's cousin?
Who?
Screech from Saved by the Bell.
Really?
Yes. One of the episodes of the show. He's like, "Oh, this is my cousin Jim." And Jim Harbaugh comes out.
No kidding. By the way, this was a Jim Mora Saints team, and they went 11-5 that year. And the Bears beat them.
And they lost to Jim Harbaugh throwing for 61 yards. 2.8 yards per attempt.
Hey, the Bears were 11-5 as well.
Good gravy.
What did the Bears do that? Because they beat New Orleans in the early 90s under Ditka in a playoff game. I wasn't alive for it, but I know what happened. Okay, the Bears lost in the wild card that year. They lost the Cowboys 17-13. 92, I think, is when they played the Saints in the playoffs. That was at Soldier Field, and I believe, and again, this was a few years before I was born, but I've watched some of these old playoff games. I believe Mike Tomczak was the quarterback that game.
Okay, so the last time they won in New Orleans was 1991. Can
Mhm.
you can you tell me when the last time they won in New Orleans before that?
Was it something like the 70s or something?
December 21, 1975.
Oh my god.
It's so long
42 to
ago.
17.
They don't have an internet box score for that game.
Yeah. So hold on. So they won in 1991 in the Superdome. They won in 1975 in the Superdome. What else? And then okay, so what? They beat them in 68 and 70. Would those have both been in the Superdome?
68 and 70 were both in New Orleans and the Bears won.
Right, but it was at the Superdome.
I would assume so. When would the Superdome come open?
Because I thought it was built for when the Saints came around. Let's see. I mean, because I want to know how many times they
75 was their first year at the Superdome.
so
So
taking away
they've only won twice in the Superdome. Outside of the
3
Super Bowl.
times if you count the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I said outside the Super Bowl. They've only beat the Saints twice in the Superdome.
I knew it wasn't good. I didn't realize it was that bad. Yikes. That's depressing.
Yep. I'm so fed up with this team and this organization. Um, I I don't even know what to do or say.
It's a hopeless feeling.
It really is.
Really is a hopeless feeling.
And you know, I I'm a Chicago fan. I understand the rebuild. I live with the rebuild. I could live with a rebuild like last year. I kept saying, okay, well, you know what? Is we're gonna have a high draft pick, we're gonna have money, we're gonna be able to fix this with good draft picks. And they made the trade. We're like, oh man, we're gonna have a top draft pick plus multiple first rounders next year. And they've gotten worse. Last year, they got the number one pick from being the worst overall team, and they've gotten worse. They're worse than they were last year.
Yeah, it's going backwards. I mean, last year you saw a lot of close losses last year on a team that on paper should be much worse than this one. I mean, they almost eked out games against worthy opponents when Equanimous St. Brown was your number one wide receiver. When you were down to him being your number one guy. Do you remember how competitive they played against the Eagles? Do you remember that?
Yep.
And even Eagles fans who came into Chicago were like, wow, guys gave us a good fight.
I mean, that you're like, that made you think that the arrow is pointing up. And being exposed last night on national TV, it was just I felt numb. I felt numb until today when I saw what the coaching reaction was.
Right. Yep, same.
And I said, you know what? I went from being just numb and over this to no, I'm pissed off. I'm fired up. And now I'm ready to spit venom.
Yeah.
And I'm pissed. And is I know players got to play, but Matt Eberflus, his defense that was, oh, hey, I'm a good defensive coordinator. He's the defensive coordinator now, and his team just got eviscerated. His defense got eviscerated in this game.
It was never you were never confident that they were going to get a stop.
No, I mean, how many times did their punter punt? I don't remember if he did or not. I sort of half tuned out.
And they went drive after drive, scoring after scoring, and I don't think Justin Herbert broke a sweat.
Justin Herbert had been really struggling, and he comes in and just completes his first like 17 passes.
Yeah, it was easy for him. It was so easy. He didn't have any pressure on him whatsoever.
Yeah, they just annihilated the Bears, and the Bears actually did a decent job stopping the run. Their leading rusher only had 29 yards rushing and 1.9 yard average. Like, they stopped the run. They just can't stop the pass because they can't get any pressure on it. And quarterbacks are just getting it out quick. Like, look at their passing yards. Eckler, 7 for 94. Allen, 8 for 69. Johnston, 5 for 50. Parham, 4 for 43. Palmer, 3 for 24. Like, it was just frustrating. Their punter punted twice.
And by then, the game was settled. And you know what's a real shame, too, about this? Is that you had a home team blow the opponent out, and yet there was very little enthusiasm because most of the people in the crowd were Bears fans. So Bears fans went all that way to see the Bears play and saw that effort.
You know, I love going to Los Angeles. I have a good time there. I'm not going out there for a Bears game because I'm just spending a lot of money to watch my team lose and be miserable the rest of the trip.
Hey, speaking of losing streaks in an area, did you read the stat about the Bears in Los Angeles?
No.
The Bears haven't won a game in the Los Angeles era since 1987 when they beat the Rams. Do you want to know what was notable about that game?
What?
The final career game for Walter Payton. That's the last time he won in the Los Angeles area.
They're running back, and the last time the Bears won in Los Angeles is dead.
Yeah, who has not played in over 30 years.
Jesus Christ.
Hey, I got one more fun little nugget for you when it comes to the Saints next week. And it's funny because I actually just recently rewatched the highlights of this game on YouTube because I fell down a rabbit hole. Do you remember when the Saints came to Chicago in 1997?
I don't.
Well, it was kind of significant because the Saints are being coached by a certain coach.
Dicka.
Right. It was the first and only time he came to Soldier Field as an opposing coach.
And beat the Bears.
Yeah, 20-17.
I think the Bears, the Saints were bad. The Saints were real bad.
They were very bad.
And the Bears, I want to say the Bears were probably like, what, 0-5, 0-6,
Yes.
somewhere
Yeah,
around
they didn't
there.
have a win. It was like, I think like it was a combined 1 or 2 wins between the two teams, and the Bears had none of the wins.
Yeah.
Can you guess who the quarterbacks were?
The Saints. Uh, um, God, he was the quarterback. He went to Tennessee. It's a really Southern name.
You're on it.
Heath Schuler.
That's right. Heath Schuler.
And
Heath Schuler was the quarterback of the
and the
Saints.
Bears, Rick Meyer.
He played part of the game. It was two guys.
Eric Kramer.
It was Eric Kramer and Rick Meyer. Rick
Okay.
Meyer attempted 16 passes, completed 7. Eric Kramer attempted 20, completed 12. No touchdowns between the two.
Um, running back must have been Raymond Harris.
Yep, 82 yards of rushing, and he scored a touchdown. And Eric Kramer did score a touchdown, but with his legs, rushing, not passing.
And I'm gonna guess the leading receiver was Ricky Prohl.
Nope,
Bobby Ingram.
correct.
Ricky Prohl was
So
probably second then, right?
in terms of yards, correct. So Bobby Ingram had 59 yards. Ricky Pohl had 39. Ryan Wetnight had
Oh my
36.
God, I totally forgot about him, the tight end, Ryan
Chris
Wednight.
Chris Penn had 35. Tyrone Hughes had 13, and Keith Jennings had 7. Raymond Harris was thrown to 3
Chris
times,
Chris
but
Penn. He was from Tulsa and got the Bears got him from Kansas City.
and probably did nothing, right?
No, he didn't do anything.
Of course.
Raymond Harris was from Ohio State, and once he left, I believe that was his last year with the Bears. And I think he went to the Packers after that.
Yes, you're right. He played 1 year with the Packers.
And
He had 1,000 years, 1,000 yards for the Bears in 1997. Then he went to Denver, New England after Green Bay, and that was it.
and God, the running back for the Saints that game would have been, who's a Notre Dame guy. Ray Zellers, right?
Uh,
For the Saints,
are you saying rushing or receiving?
rushing, the running back.
Ray Zellers, yes, correct.
Okay. I can't even think of who their running back or their wide receivers would have been.
Randall Hill, John Farquhar, Mario Bates, Andre Hastings, and Mario Bates rushed for 58 yards as well.
Jesus, there was nobody on that team.
Yeah, bad versus bad. I mean,
What a terrible game. You got what do the Bears have in common every single one of these games? Terrible quarterback play.
oh, it never stops. I mean, it never freaking stops when you look at all these matchups.
Oh my God.
I mean, the playoff game in 1992, I believe that was Mike Tomczak. There's 1992 playoffs. Because that was a
No, that would have been Harbaugh too, wouldn't it have?
well, let's see. I thought when I rewatched it was Tomczak, but let's see.
Maybe.
No, you're right, it was Harbaugh. I thought it was Tomczak. Maybe no, wasn't Tomczak, didn't he play more under what's his nuts? Wani?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jim Harbaugh, 260 yards passing, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, while Bobby Herbert passed for 264 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, but the Bears still, wait a minute, I'm looking at the wrong score. Hold on. That's the wrong score. That's regular season. That is regular season. I am looking for playoffs. Because I thought it was 1992. Yeah, because I was going to say, that doesn't make any sense. Like, the quarterback play was really, 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 really bad for the Bears. I mean, it usually is, but let's see.
Oh, you're thinking 91. That was Tom
91. Okay, so I was right. Okay.
Tom
Okay.
Zach had just pull the game. Tom Zach was 166 yards passing. Neil Anderson had 102 yards rushing. He was also your leading receiver.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Maury Buford was your punter. Totally forgot about Maury Buford. He did 2 stints with the Bears. Oh my goodness.
Neil Anderson attempted 1 pass and completed it for 22 yards.
Yep. Neil Anderson was an underrated Bear.
Yeah, he was a solid player. Funny, Steve Walsh played some quarterback for the team, for the Saints, but Steve Walsh would lead the Bears to victory the year I was born in 1995 against Warren Moon and the Vikings.
Yeah, he played 2 seasons with the Bears.
He was the last Bears quarterback to win a road playoff game.
Are you serious?
Yes.
So 94?
Yes.
The Bears haven't won a road playoff game since 1994.
Right, because think about it. Look at look, since then, you didn't make the playoffs for the rest of the 90s. You made the playoffs in 01 under Dick Duran. You lost at home against the Eagles. And literally, as soon as the last fan walked out of the building, they tore the old Soldier Field down. Then 2005, you lost at home to the Panthers. 2006, you lost the Super Bowl. That doesn't count as a road playoff game. That's the Super Bowl. It's a neutral site. Then you lost at home to the Packers in 2010 after beating the Seahawks at home. And then you lost to the Eagles at home in 2018, double doink, and you lost on the road to the Saints. That's the last time you won a playoff game. I was not even a full year old.
Jeez.
This is giving me a headache.
Oh my God. Why? Why? God. I'm looking, yeah, their playoff history. They haven't been in the playoffs since 2010 and they lost. Or sorry, 2020 and they lost. One game, 0-1 in 2020, 0-1 in 2018, 1-1 in 2010, 2-1 in 2006, 0-1 in 2005, 0-1 in 2001, 1-1 in 94, 0-1 in 91, 1-1 in 1990, 1-1 in 88, 0-1 87, 0-1 86. Wasn't since the Super Bowl. 3-0. What a shitty team.
So we've only won multiple playoff games one time since the Super Bowl. And that was the other year they made the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Yep.
Jeez. Wow. Because wasn't 1988, didn't they get absolutely clapped by the 49ers that year?
Yeah. Yep.
And wasn't 95 after they won in Minnesota, didn't they also once again get clapped by the 49ers?
Indeed.
And then they lost to the Cowboys in 91, 92?
I will tell you a fun fact about the 1988 game against the 49ers. Is my dad threw a shoe through our TV.
No kidding.
He was not happy.
How does a shoe go through a TV of that era?
It was thrown pretty hard.
Jeez. Those old TVs with the glass screen?
Right through the TV. So I didn't even get to finish watching that game because we only had one TV.
I mean, did you need to see anything else?
No. But I remember I was watching and my dad took his shoe off and just threw it right through the TV. And I was like, oh man, I don't want to know what happens after this. So I ran and hid in the basement.
Yeah. Let's see. Because that was the NFC Championship.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Because they beat
28-3. Yeesh.
Yep.
Who
Yep.
was Jim McMahon even healthy for that game?
Um. Jeez. Jim McMahon played, but Mike Tomzak came in.
Uh,
Yeah, that was.
so I have this funny image of someone carrying out a busted TV with a shoe still lodged in it.
I I don't even remember the TV going out. I just remember my dad taking the shoe off, throwing it through the TV, and I went, yoink, time for me to hide. And I ran down to the basement.
Do you
It's the
remember at
base.
what point he threw the shoe?
I don't I don't remember.
I mean, you lose 28-3 with a trip to the Super Bowl on the line. Could have been at any point, right?
I mean, it could have been pretty early.
I just picture the static.
Ugh.
Man, that's a great story.
At the time, I mean, I would have been like 10, 11 years old. And it's like, oh God, uh-oh, I'm going to get a butt whooping here. I better mind my, I learned very early, mind your P's and Q's if the Bears lose.
Mm. Boy, just imagine how many shoes would be going through TVs today.
Right? Good gravy.
I bet the rest of your family was thrilled about that.
Oh yeah, it's always fun. Just having a no TV.
How long did it take to replace that TV?
Honestly, I don't remember. It was just the traumatic experience um of the the TV getting broken, and then that was it.
You're going to have a dream tonight where you're going to be sitting in front of that nice new TV you have, and you're going to get mad and you're just going to chuck your shoe right through it.
God, I don't even want to think about that. I hope I never get that mad at a Bears game.
I remember getting really mad during the 2010 NFC Championship game. And then when Cutler went down, I just turned it off. And then my friend told me the next day at school that he had like a bunch of Portillos. So he had like a shake and like some hot dog and beef and fries. He's like, yeah, that Portillo's ended up all over the TV.
God. Why do we let the Bears just ruin our whole weekends?
It's been that way for a long, 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 long time. Makes me sick.
Yeah. So I have, no hopes of the Bears winning in New Orleans.
Oh
And
no, I don't
and,
either.
and honestly, it's probably for the best that they lose anyway.
At this point, yeah.
I mean, they're not winning anything with this team, so you might as well get that better draft pick.
Here we are talking about tanking again.
I know, back-to-back seasons. This is tank. Oh, it's just tank. Um, but Derek Carr's playing really well. Um, and he's gonna pick you apart. Taysom Hill is probably gonna come in and make you look stupid.
Oh, no doubt.
Um, Rashid Shaheed's probably gonna drop 120 on you. Like, I just don't. I have no hope for that, for the Bears winning. But here we are. It's you look at Tankathon, and as it currently stands, you would have picks 2 and 3. But that's just because Arizona has played more games than Carolina. Carolina is 1-6. Arizona is 1-7. So Carolina has that tiebreaker, or the if they have the same record, Carolina will get the better of the 2 draft picks. So I mean, in reality, the Bears would have 1 and 3. But the Bears need some of these other teams to start losing in case they win one here. Because this is the order is technically Arizona first, just by the fact that they've have more losses. Then the Bears through Carolina. Then the Bears are their own pick. Then the Giants, Patriots, Packers, Colts, Denver, and the Rams and Washington round out 10. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 teams with only 2 wins. The Bears need some of them to get a couple of wins. The Giants have actually been playing pretty decent. I mean, their defense has been looking good. Tyrod
a lot
Taylor,
of injuries though.
Yeah, Tyrod Taylor. Hopefully, Danny Dimes comes back soon, because Tyrod's injured and he was actually playing pretty well.
Yeah.
Patriots, man, I don't know. That's just a bunk ass team.
Yeah, that team stinks.
The Packers got to have a couple wins in there. But Jordan Love is a bad quarterback.
Yeah, that's not looking very good. That is,
Just imagine how the narrative would be different if they hadn't played the Bears week 1.
Oh, absolutely.
That literally saved him from the embarrassment.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no kidding. Andy Dalton could have beaten the Bears if he was under center for the freaking Packers that game.
Yeah, but I have hope that Arizona might win a few games, because the rumors is their quarterback might be returning in the next couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
If that's the case, they haven't been playing terribly. They're not good by any stretch, but maybe they'll win a couple and they lock those Bears in at 1 and 2. I mean, that would be the dream scenario there. Get 1
yeah,
and 2.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Stupid Bears. All right, what do you want to talk about now?
Well, there's 30 seconds left in this Bulls game, and the Bulls are clinging to a 4-point lead, and it's going to be the difference between 2 and 2 or 1 and 3. And we're seeing a lot of the same problems we saw last year.
I mean, it's Patrick Williams is dog shit, and we keep saying, "Oh, well, we just need him to step up." And he wants $20 million. He wants like $20 million a year or something ridiculous.
Yeah, good luck with that.
And he can't play. Dalen Terry was terrible and getting sent down. And you, after one game, you had a players only meeting. I don't know what they're trying to do. Just run your offense through Vooch. That's what he wants. That's what the coaching staff says. This team just doesn't play well. Your coaching staff is not doing well. Your players don't buy into what they're trying to do.
And I don't like this combination of players.
They don't shoot enough threes. And when they do, they're
like opening night against OKC.
They shot enough there. They shot really bad. and
Right. That's what I'm
they
right.
don't like shooting them. They don't like shooting threes, but that's the NBA. Like tonight, Zach was Zach's your leading, or I guess Pooch was, but Zach drops 21, but on 6 of 17 shooting,
Mm-hmm.
6 of 17, 1 and 6 behind the arc.
Yeah. Yeah. You need more than that in modern NBA. I mean,
Your leading 3-point shooter made 1 3-pointer.
it's so funny. It's like, what do the Bears defense and the Bulls offense have in common? They try to play like it's 2005 and they can't.
Yeah. Um,
Because you don't have the size advantage on a lot of these teams to drive to the hoop. You remember what Milwaukee did to them in the playoffs 2 years ago?
yep.
Clog up the lanes around the basket and just make them shoot threes because they know they weren't going to hit those, darn well knowing they weren't going to drive to the paint because they were heavily outmatched.
But I mean, here at the end of the game, it's a you're trying to win, you're trying to hold on to a slim lead, and Torrey Craig's on the bench. Why? He's arguably your best defender. Why isn't he on the court? What are you trying to do?
I think they're getting too cute.
But you've had, let's see, you got smoked by the Pistons.
That was brutal.
You you won a 1 point overtime win against the Raptors, and you got smoked on opening night by the Thunder. I mean, they clapped you at home.
Yeah. They were just draining three after three after three. And that kid who they drafted a year ago, who's finally playing now, looks pretty darn good on OKC. And I mean, you were gifted that Raptors win.
Yeah. Yep. Um,
If the Bulls hang on here, this would be the first time we could say, okay, it wasn't the prettiest, but that's legitimately a solid win to go on the road. You know, the Pacers were undefeated at the time. So needs to get this.
yeah, I mean, you need this win. But yeah, this team just doesn't have the ability to win these big games. I know we were hopeful. Like, well, if this happens and if this happens, those things just really aren't happening.
Right. We keep saying this has got to happen, that's got to happen. But like, it'll be a microcosm these first four games. Hey, you see some good, you see a lot of bad. You see the lot of bad is going to inhibit you from winning anything meaningful, but you're probably going to be around a 500-ish team because you at least have enough talent that's going to squeak you out some games like this. When you have nights where Levine could score, DeRozan could score, Vooch can do what he can do. I mean, when Vooch comes up big late, they usually win those games. It's just that you're not always getting that consistently enough.
Yeah, I mean, the miracle in this game is that they were down a nice chunk, and you're like going into the fourth quarter, you're like, oof, this does not fare well for this team. And they had a nice fourth quarter comeback. And were they down 5 going into the fourth, and they come back and take the lead. So it's nice to see that, but I agree with you. I just don't have hope for this team. And, they seem like a borderline playoff team.
That's what we expected.
That's what we expected, and that's what they are.
There is nothing that we watch about this Bulls team and say, wow, I'm surprised, for better or for worse.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know what else to say about this team. They are who we thought they were. They just are who we thought
Print
they
it.
were. And I wouldn't be shocked if they move on from Zach LaVine and try to make that trade.
I don't know. Who's taking that money? Who's taking that contract?
I don't know. I don't know. But that wouldn't be shocking. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if he thought that too. His expectation is he's getting traded. All right, it's official. Bulls win this one.
That was a nice win there. I mean, you were down, you came back, and it's not easy going into Indiana and winning in that building. So, I mean, I'll give them their props there. Vooch came up big, came up with some big possessions, handed to them. They closed it out.
I mean, now if the playoffs were to start today, they would be in the playoffs.
They're 4 games.
Listen, you got to cling to whatever you can. Got to cling to whatever you can. Excuse
Hey,
me.
I'll gladly take the win tonight. You beat a division rival. It's good to beat a rival like that.
But yeah, I mean, Blackhawks, they're a team. They've had some pretty tough losses that you didn't like. But they had that win against the Vegas Golden Knights was a nice one.
Handed them their first loss of the year. And you know what? There's something to be said about that win. Because what was the game before that? Do you remember?
Yeah, it was the Bruins game where they looked like dog turds.
Right. And Coach Richardson after the game said, "Hey, we didn't do our job. We didn't play good enough. We got to be better." They practice hard. They rebound. They go to the best team in the NHL's house and they beat them. They hand them their first loss.
Yep. And I know the Golden Knights were playing sloppy, but it doesn't matter. They hadn't lost, and that was a nice win. It was a nice win for them. And they didn't play great that whole game, but they never quit.
Nope.
I mean you were down 2-0 at one point.
You were down 2-0 early. It was looking bad, and then they turned on the Jets. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, first couple minutes.
Right.
Yeah, you scored 2 late in the first period, and you're like, oh, okay, all right, now it's a game. And then you give up a goal late in the third period to tie it up, but then you come back in and in the overtime and get that victory. So, I can't fault them. That was a game that they just never gave up.
No, they didn't. And you saw another really nice goal from Connor Bedard.
Yeah, it was a real nice goal.
And I was so mad that they disallowed that one against the Bruins.
Oh, I know. That was bullshit.
Had the Kane Selly and everything.
Yeah, that was bullshit. I don't like that you can call for a replay that late.
Yeah.
And how close was that?
It didn't look very conclusive in my opinion.
I didn't think so. I would have just left it, but
if they would have called offsides initially and review it, okay. Because it's hard to overturn, but you didn't. It was a challenge, and it was hard to conclude.
Yeah, so
not that they would have won the game, but it would have been another goal for Bedard.
Yeah. I mean, you know what? He's gonna get chunks. He's gonna have a couple multi-point games.
And we're gonna blow chunks too, watching the Bears.
And the Blackhawks are playing tonight against the Coyotes team, who's, not that good.
It's their only easy game because after this, they got to play back-to-back games against the Devils and the Panthers this weekend.
Yep. Um. So yeah, you hope that Connor Bedard gets some opportunities here. Um. And really, your only injury, Vlasic's out this game, which was that was frustrating. But the Vlasic and the Taylor Hall injuries,
Those are tough.
I I've heard the Blackhawks' response to it. We're just going to go out there and win games and not be stupid, but kick somebody's ass.
Corey Perry.
I hate John Scott as an announcer, but John Scott on the ice would have beat somebody's ass.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Why isn't Corey Perry out there kicking somebody's ass for that? Is because what if next time it's Connor Bedard that they take out like that?
Yep.
And and that's not to diminish Vlasic because he's a guy that you're really excited about. And
yeah,
luckily he's day to day, but Taylor Hall's week to week. So
and Taylor Hall is a really good player to have around Connor Bedard, so that's why that really sucks.
yep. So it's just frustrating. You want to see them defend their players better.
Yeah.
Not really Blackhawks related. Is I'm sure you heard about Adam Johnson dying.
Yeah, very sad.
Did you watch the play?
No, and I really don't want to.
Don't watch it, man. I think that other guy kicked him. I think that was an intentional kick. I heard, I only watched it because Dan Carcillo said something along those lines, and I saw somebody else say it too. And I was like, no, nobody's kicking somebody with this dude did a ninja kick with the blade.
Jeez.
And just don't watch it, man. It's nightmare stuff.
Yep, I do not plan to.
So math, it's weird. Like it getting cut with a blade is pretty rare, but has it happened enough where players are going to do something about it, make the decision to put on, some sort of neck guard or, trying to defend or prevent senseless death like that or senseless injuries.
Yeah, it's you saw that the USA Hockey had those neck protectors.
Yeah. So I know TJ Yoshi was big on wanting those like neck protectors. Which is weird because he was pushing it for everybody else, but he didn't wear it. Yeah, it just senseless.
Yep. Really sad. And I'm glad that the whole NHL and hockey communities come together to honor him.
Yeah. But Blackhawks, yeah, playing tonight, so it's I hate these West Coast games where they're on so late. Like I get it.
Yeah.
Because it's it's a night game for the home team, but those are brutal to watch. So I'm exhausted the next day.
Yeah, because I got tomorrow's a work from home day for me, so not a work from home. It's a work in office day for me tomorrow. Though we just moved into our awesome new office, so that's cool. It's a little closer, but I still like to go in early, so I can leave earlier and beat traffic. So I feel like when I'm working from home the next day, I can stay up for those, but when I'm not, it's kind of tough. Kind of tough.
Yeah, I mean, it's the school year, so I get up, have to get my kid breakfast and get her ready to go to school, make her lunch,
Yeah.
and then drive her 20 minutes south before heading 45 minutes north
Oh
to go
wow.
to work. So it's like, I'm like, oh my God, these late games, no bueno, no bueno. But still, it's been fun to watch. Even the two real clunkers that they played, 2.5 clunkers. Um,
I
the
mean, the
rest
one
of
clunker against Colorado, that was truly just what are you gonna do?
yeah, that team is so good. That team is so good. Um, Avalanche, I mean the Golden Knights, they're a good team. Bruins are a good team, but the Blackhawks at least showed life there. But otherwise, they've been really competitive. Even games where they've been out of it, they've fought their way back to make a competitive game. And I like this coaching staff. This is easily the best coaching staff in the city.
Yep, I agree. I don't even think twice about it.
I mean, far superior. I mean, the Cubs have a good team, but I think most of us would say that one of their weaknesses is the manager. Um, and God knows what's going on with the White Sox. The Bulls have probably the most decorated head coach, but uh, I don't think we've seen much of them here, and I think the Bears just have an abysmal coaching staff. So yeah, I mean, not much of a competition, but still, I like that coaching staff.
Yeah, I do too.
It'll be fun when you get some of those rookies to get a little seasoning, and you're able to sprinkle in some free agents because this if you play this right, this is this could be a real good team going forward.
Yep, we got a long way to go, but at least we can see the progression.
Yeah, that's the thing. When with a rebuild, once you hit that rock bottom, you just want to see um you just want to see progression. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing this team like they're not good. You're not seeing it so much in the record, but you're watching the team look better. They look better on the ice. It's the eyeball test. You're like, oh hey, uh, because when it comes down to wins and losses, this uh, you know, they're they're not great. I mean, they have they have like I don't know the fifth or sixth worst record, but the play on the ice is so much better than it was, and the eyeball test shows that. So and this is a bad record with a really tough start. They're gonna play against, you know, uh, other bad teams, and things are gonna sort of even out at some point. They're gonna play against the Blues and the Buffaloes and
And they'll have some
Arizona's.
nice sustained home games because we're
Mhm.
only having played two home games total, and let's see, how many games have the Hawks played so far?
7, 8.
So 8, and we've only had two home games. Is tonight's going to be number 9, right?
Yeah.
So you've played 9 games, only 2 of them have been at home.
Yep. Yep. And you know, you and you've played 2 against Boston, who doesn't have a regulation loss yet. Um, is it 2 against Vegas?
Yes.
So 2 against Boston, 2 against Vegas. Neither one has a regulation loss. Um, You have one against Colorado, who's got one of the third best record. So you've played 5 of your 8 games so far against the 3 best records in hockey.
Oh, and now you get a dose of the Panthers, the Lightning twice, the Devils.
Yeah. So you're gonna eventually even this out. Even this out.
Baptism by fire for Connor Bedard and some of those other rookies.
Yeah, and you know what? Honestly, you're not seeing him get as much opportunities because teams are just focused on taking him away and not giving him space. You're gonna eventually see him get some opportunities, and those points are gonna come in bunches, and you're gonna get that show. He's a great player, just so good. It's fun to watch him play.
Yeah, it is. And I look forward to watching this just progress. Even if it doesn't mean in a whole lot of wins, I'm looking forward to it progressing.
Is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, I think I've said my piece.
I think that's going to do it for this episode of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. I want to thank everybody so much for listening. Please hit subscribe however you listen to podcasts, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Google Play, Spotify, etc. Share this podcast with your friends. That would grow the show. Follow us on social media at Swerski Sports, Facebook.com/Swerski Sports, SwerskiSports.com, ShyFanPat2 for Alex on Twitter /X, or AlexanderJPatCreative.com for all the cool stuff that Alex does. And again, thank you guys so much for listening. Until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her, you can have her, she's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van, and she looks like
Remember, New Yorkers, smoking crack is not legal on planes. Bears 31 to -7. The Bears! Oh, when the Bears go bearing down